Pokemon. I love Pokemon. I've played every generation of games at launch save for 3 and 5, and like most Pokemon fans, I've noticed the decline in quality of games over the last years. So, let's talk about it. This is, speaking of, the current state of Pokemon. To talk about modern day Pokemon games, we should first talk a little bit about the route that led us here. The design of Pokemon games remained more or less the same for the first 5 generations, with minor improvements here or there, until X and Y came out and Pokemon made its first foray into 3D. Sun and Moon followed that 3D trend and released in late 2016, just 4 months before the Switch would come out. The CEO of the Pokemon company actually thought that the Switch would fail because of smartphones, and I wonder if that had any impact on why we didn't see a Pokemon game on the Switch at launch. Back to Sun and Moon. For some reason, they made these games very hand-holdy, and I'm not talking about the 3DS. I'm talking about the game holding your hand for the entire first island. And when Sword and Shield released on the Switch in 2019, the games would only make this feature much more prevalent. The entire game treats you like you're brainless. And yes, I know they're games meant for kids, but the first game was released over 20 years ago. The Pokemon Company knows that a lot of adults play these games. And if I could beat Red as a 6-year-old without the internet, then kids can beat Sword and Shield without having the game nearly play itself. I mean, just look at this scene in Hammerlock. I also want to talk about the puzzle designs in Pokemon. Mainly, where did they go? In the early generations, we had these beautiful puzzles that I remember so fondly, and honestly hold up to this day. I've been playing through Soul Silver lately, and when I encountered the Ice Cave, yeah, it was filled with nostalgia, but it was also filled with more of a puzzle than any of the modern day Pokemon games. And speaking of caves, do you remember when they were actually a bit of a challenge to navigate through? When they actually had level design? Now they're just this. Gyms used to be a mix of puzzles and trainer battles, but now they consist of a very simplistic minigame that takes zero thought. And yeah, some of them do have trainer battles, but they just don't hold the same weight that they used to. Even going back and playing old Pokemon games as an adult, I find them to be more challenging than any of the modern day ones, and I miss having to think while playing these games. Most franchises age up with their audience, but Pokemon has, for some reason, seemed to be aging down. Though I should mention here that the 7-star Terra raids in Scarlet and Violet are pretty challenging, and they're actually some of my favorite parts of the new games. And speaking of the new games, should we talk about it? The grainy Phanpy in the corner of the room running at 24 FPS? Obviously, Sword and Shield were not visually stunning games, but Scarlet and Violet have not fared much better. I'm not going to go into how broken the games were at launch, or still are. If you're watching this video, then chances are you probably know how unpolished they are. On a side note, am I the only one who prefers the look of Sword and Shield to that of Scarlet and Violet? Is that a crazy take? I feel like everything in Scarlet and Violet is so teeny tiny itty bitty small. At least I could actually see the Pokemon in Sword and Shield. Anyways, back to the point. Old Pokemon games are timeless in a way that other games from that era are not, but modern day Pokemon games are about a decade out of date the second they're released. You know how I know the old ones are timeless? Because Sea of Stars just came out and it plays and looks like an old school Pokemon game and actually sold pretty well. I actually think Pokemon would do really well in a Sea of Stars format. Running into all of the houses and talking to the NPCs in that game reminded me a lot of the old Pokemon games, and I think that the turn-based RPG style of Sea of Stars would fit Pokemon very well. And since Sea of Stars was made with only 23 people, it would fit Gamefreak's team size. If you don't know what I'm talking about, allow me to relay to you the 3 factors that I think are responsible for the state of modern Pokemon games. Number 1, the release schedule. Pokemon is like a breeding mill that has to churn out a new generation every 3 years and a new game or some kind of expansion every year. That kind of timeline is clearly hurting the games, although not their sales. That might have worked when they were making 2D or even 3DS style games, but in the era of the Switch, these games clearly need more time in the oven. If nothing else changes, I would like to see at least 4 years between mainline games. Number 2, they need a bigger team. There is currently, as of March 2022, only 169 people working at Gamefreak, and they were divided into 2 teams for Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet. Although admittedly I know very little about game development, 170 people developing 2 games of those sizes just does not seem like enough when I compare it to the teams making games of similar scope. There were 300 people working on Breath of the Wild over 5 years, and people wanted Scarlet and Violet to be the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon. It just doesn't seem like that's going to happen with roughly 85 people over 3 years. Which leads me to point number 3. They need to spend more money on game development. Did you know that Pokemon is the highest grossing multimedia franchise in the world of all time? They make more money than Mickey Mouse, Winnie the Pooh, and even Star Wars. Freaking Star Wars! There is absolutely no way that they can't afford, and I mean monetarily afford, to make these games better. You're telling me this is the best that the highest grossing media franchise on earth can do? I'm not buying it. And speaking of not buying it, I know a lot of people say, just don't buy the games. But I don't want to not buy the games because they're bad. I want to buy the games because they're good. Now, aside from the games releasing in a clearly unfinished state and taking forever to get updates, they're also kind of just bland. I mean, they made this big open world for Scarlet and Violet and then didn't put anything in it. You can't enter any of the buildings, which has been a staple of Pokemon games yonder. And the NPCs have nothing to say or interact about. The world just seems so empty. Some of the design is also just lazy, which harkens back to a small number of people and a tight time frame and a low budget. Take the example that Beat'em showed in his Scarlet and Violet review. The rock faces are just one pattern, copied and pasted, stretched and shrunk over and over. They even stopped putting all Pokemon into a single game. What? Why? People will say, oh, there's too many Pokemon, too many move animations, they couldn't possibly fit it all into a single game. But at that point, I would say that Scarlet and Violet is only missing 292 Pokemon. You're telling me they can put in 733, but the last third is somehow too many? I don't buy it, especially when you consider the team size, the lack of time between games, and the amount of money that the company makes. They could certainly do it if they wanted it to be done. I've seen games do more. Since I've been overly critical of the games and I opened this video by saying that I love Pokemon, I'm going to go ahead and lay out some features that I would like to see in the next Pokemon games that I think would make them better. Number 1, bring back building interiors. The storefronts in Scarlet and Violet are just menus. Let me explore and talk to the NPCs, talk to the people in these towns, and find cool interactions and items and trades. Number 2, puzzles please. I guess I really just want better level design. Sword and Shield was just a straight line through the entire game, and Scarlet and Violet was just this big open world with nothing in it. Number 3, I would like to see all of the Pokemon available in the mainline game. I don't care if they don't have them all in the side games like Legends or the remakes, but in the main generation game, they should have all Pokemon available as soon as Pokemon Home is available. Number 4, bring back quality of life features. There were a ton of quality of life features that were in previous games that are missing from Scarlet and Violet. Also, just as a side note on quality of life, what the fuck is this Pokedex? I mean, I get that it's supposed to be like a bookshelf, but aren't bookshelves supposed to have, shelves? Why is it just one long shelf without any search function? Jesus Christ. Okay, anyways. Number 5. I really like the crafting in Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I would love to see it make a return in future games, mainline or otherwise. I think finding crafting materials would really help to fill out the world a bit. Number 6, and this might be a controversial take, but I would actually like to see Gamefreak remove competitive Pokemon battles from the mainline game and make a dedicated Pokemon battle game. I'm not saying to get rid of PvP in the Pokemon games entirely, but the main TPC competition should have their own dedicated game. Could you imagine a modern day Pokemon Stadium? They could continuously update it, host all of their competitions there. Every mechanic from Mega Evolution to Terraform could be available in some kind of wild mode, and only the latest mechanic could be usable in the standard format. They could have different rotations and battle modes. They could go all out on the animations. Honestly, some of these old Pokebattlers from the early 2000s have better animations than the current games. And don't make people breed their Pokemon for competitions, just let them select the Pokemon they want and what stats they should have. The only thing that making people breed for competition ready Pokemon does is separate those who have time for it from those who don't. What determines how well you do in these competitions shouldn't come down to how much time you can spend trying to get the right combination of IVs. It should come down to the build quality and the design of your Pokemon team. Now, I know I've been overly critical of Pokemon in this video, and I'm sure there's even some people who would say I haven't gone far enough. But it's just because I love this franchise so much, and I want to see it live up to the potential that I know it has. I just can't help but feel like Pokemon is falling farther and farther behind in a world of amazing standout video games. So when the Pokemon Day Presents comes around at the end of February, I don't want to see a new game announced. During the last Pokemon Presents, people were disappointed that they didn't announce any new games. Specifically, I saw people saying they wanted Black and White remakes, but I was glad that they didn't announce anything new. After the mess that was Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Scarlet and Violet, I don't want to see another game on the horizon a year out. So I hope we don't get the next game until the next Switch releases. I want to see less Pokemon games of a higher quality, and I know Gamefreak can do it. And if you want to see how I think the next Switch could fail like the Wii U did, click here to watch that video. Thanks for watching.